Now, a topic some may find difficult to hear. A group of MPs have published a report saying that access to services for survivors of FGM or female genital mutilation in the UK is a postcode lottery and that they are often not provided with the appropriate counselling services. FGM is an internationally recognised form of gender-based violence that leaves women and girls with serious and lifelong health impacts. Its numbers are thought to be growing, both here and abroad. Recently, the government announced its decision to stop funding its flagship international FGM prevention programme, raising concerns with campaigners. Well, to discuss this, I'm joined by Christine Jardine, Liberal Democrat MP for Edinburgh West and a member of the Women and Equality Select Committee, who are behind that report I just mentioned, and Sema Gornall, who is the CEO of the Vavengers, a UK-based charity committed to ending FGM and a government advisor on violence against women and girls. A very warm welcome to you both. Christine, I want to start with you because I want to start in the UK. You refer to services that survivors are able to access here as a postcode lottery. Why is that still the case?
One of the things we found in our inquiry was that the latest data that the government has is from 10 years ago. And that, they haven't kept it up to date. And that's a significant oversight when the data that you have on a serious issue like this is 10 years out of date. FGM has a huge impact on survivors, on their experiences. It's emotional, it's physical, and the lack of data has meant that the funding, which has been reduced and we need it returned to at least the £2 million that it was before, it has been responsible for creating this postcode lottery because the data's, a decade old. The spending has been reduced, but we know from other research that's been done and other work abroad that more women across the world, including in this country, are vulnerable. And it's not just in this country. We have to know what is going on because there is a fear that women are being taken abroad, girls are being taken abroad to have the horrendous abuse. So we need to make sure that we know the scale of the problem in this country, that we are funding it properly, and that we're providing access to women who need support and who need help.
And you mentioned that data being a decade old, so that is the estimation, isn't it, that 137,000 women and girls are living with FGM in the UK. But those are figures that are 10 years old. How confident can we be about those numbers now then?
It's the problem that we can't really be confident about it. We know that there is a serious problem, but we know that we don't have the up-to-date data. And that's a significant oversight by the government. And, we concluded that, adding the data gap, letting it go any further would undermine the government, the local authorities and the healthcare providers' ability to help women. We saw the government's violence against women and girls strategy, and part of that has to be tackling FGM. But how are they going to tackle it? We want women to use women's health hubs, other relevant parts of contact, such as sexual health services, sexual assault referral centres. But, to raise awareness among survivors of the potential consequences of FGM, to get them to use these services. But if we don't know where they are, we don't know the scale of the problem, and we don't know how to reach them, how are we going to do that? And it seriously undermines the government's own strategy.
Well, Sema, I want to bring you in here because it's worth saying that FGM has been illegal in the UK since 1985. Yet the Women and Equalities report, which Christine has just mentioned, indicates that FGM is still taking place in the UK and that UK citizens or residents, so these are British girls, British women, are being taken abroad to be subjected to this form of gender-based violence.
Well, we've only had 3 successful convictions, by the way, and I have to agree with Christine, and thank you so much, Christine, for your work as well. We've fed in some information to this report, and the data poverty isn't a unique problem to the UK. We released a global report and saw that data poverty is a massive issue, and it does undermine the government's effort. In the UK alone, we believe it could be as high as 1 million women and girls living with FGM. So that's just the UK estimation we have. Doesn't match the 137,000 estimate that, obviously there is now the information that is online. And that's a big difference. It's a disproportionate approach that we have to FGM.
What support do you think is needed in this country?
Well, in this country, a prevalence study where we actually ask the question to every single woman. We have a campaign called One Question Campaign. It needs to be treated like breast cancer or smear test. It's a woman's health issue. Every woman needs to be asked this question so we can figure out. So we see that in the plan, actually, which we welcome very much. We also need to see reconstructive surgery in the UK. We need to see trauma specialist mental health care for women and girls. When we see these changes, they are in the plan, but if it becomes a reality, actually that will be a game changer for survivors. It will improve their quality of life massively.
And, obviously the government's announced the ending of this funding for the international FGM prevention programme. Christine, I just wondered if you could talk to us about the impact that this programme did have.
It's been a massively significant programme. It meant that the UK, which is a signatory to the United Nations Sustainable Development Programme that this is part of, we collaborated with governments in 17 countries, as well as sort of grassroots activists in Kenya, Senegal, Somalia and Ethiopia. And it made, tangible pieces of progress, like legislation which criminalised FGM in Sudan, for example, a national anti-FGM policy in Somaliland. And significantly, it managed to defeat an attempt to overturn the ban on FGM in the Gambia. Now, all of these things are significant, tangible pieces of progress, which the programme was able to make. And ending it it undermines that. It raises the threat again in all of these countries and in this country.
Well, it feeds
of
back.
Women and girls being subjected to female genital mutilation. And there's 4 million women and girls across the world that we reckon are at risk. And it would undermine our obligation to support them and the signatories to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which I mentioned earlier.
Well, it feeds back, as you say, if FGM is being prevented abroad, it increases the safety for women and girls here. And the fact that your report says evidence indicates that FGM is taking place in the UK and that UK citizens or residents are being taken abroad. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that evidence?
Well, the evidence we heard is that if the countries abroad are not banning or FGM, then girls in this country can be taken abroad to undergo FGM. It also means that women who come here in the future may have been subjected to it, and that raises other problems, other issues. And we need to get the government to commit to dedicated funding beyond 2026 to ensure that we continue to battle this abroad, because it does, and as you mentioned, make not just women abroad, but women in this country who perhaps have connections abroad, whose families have maybe migrated here in the past, or, who are subjected to this form of violent abuse, which has horrendous emotional and physical impacts on them. And what we really need is more, training. It should be mandatory, we believe, for midwives and other healthcare professionals in this country, to know how to treat survivors appropriately, sensitively. And women in this country need to be informed of the right to have an interpreter in health situations who is appropriately trained. And I think we need to look more at how we can, raise awareness in this country of the problem and link that up with more spending abroad, because the reduction in international development aid has had a significant effect on this and other problems. And we are going to see the impact in this country of further instances, and it is horrific, of female genital mutilation. If we take our eye off the issue and we allow our role in tackling it internationally to be undermined, because it's not just a problem abroad, it's a problem which is in this country as well, massive, as Sita's been saying, and the two are intrinsically linked. You cannot tackle one without tackling the other.
Well, I just want to read a statement from the Foreign Commonwealth Development Office, because they have said that this programme was always due to end in 2026, as was made clear when it was originally awarded the funding, but that lessons they have learnt from the programme will be incorporated into future work in this area, funding for which will be set out in the coming months. And they also say that the government made clear in this week's strategy on violence against women and girls that we are determined to tackle the scourge of female genital mutilation and other coercive practices, both in the UK and around the world. And that remains our commitment. Sema, I just want to get your response to that. Is that in line with the support that you would like to see in place?
The Girl Generation is a highly effective program. They're one of our partners. So we have seen as a partner NGO the impact of this work. So giving something to women and girls and taking it back is obviously not a great look for the UK government. Yeah. But what we would like to see, since they've said that, is the plan that they released is actually great from an NGO perspective. Again, we help them fed information, work with a number of ministers. If that becomes a reality, that means not only the Girl Generation needs to be funded, but we need to fund global and home programs. And we also need to play a role as the UK government to convene other governments. We released a report, for example, that says if we globally, and this is not just the UK government, make an initial investment of £3.9 billion to end FGM, following eradication, you will gain back to the global economy £40 billion. So it's not actually aid we are talking about. It's never a bad idea to invest in women. And there's never a bad time to invest in women and girls. Obviously, we need to make this investment. And, since the UK is in a great position, and, we were one of the biggest funders of this issue in the past. So I don't think that should be taken back now. There's a momentum. A girl child today is less likely to be subjected to FGM because of all these investments that we've made in the past. Why take it back now? I think this could be an opportunity. We could spin it around. There's this wonderful report. There's our report, the economic report. There's so much evidence, and we're an evidence-based country. Why not make this investment so that our world that we all live in and inhabit can be a wonderful space for all women and girls, but also for men too?
We'll have to leave it there, but I just wanted to say thank you very much for coming in. And as you say, investment in women and girls can never be a bad thing. So thank you to both of you for joining us, Sema Gornall and Christine Jardine. And I do want to say that if you have been affected by any of the things that you have heard in the programme today, please do go to the BBC Action Line website, where you will see links to support. 84844 is the number to text. Do keep your opinions and thoughts about anything you hear on the programme coming in.